Fantastic.
Thank you, darling.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Go-To Food Podcast. And today we're joined by the most famous food critic in the world, the multi-award-winning writer, journalist and broadcaster, and now cookbook author, which we're going to get into, the wonderful Jay Rayner. We should also say film star in a way, because you were, we were talking just off camera about Herne Hill and the wonderful delights of it. You were mentioned in the Florence Pugh Andrew Garfield film.
I meant to just say that didn't really matter to me.
No.
Can I say, by the way, you have had lots of other restaurant critics on.
We have
this.
Tim Hayward.
Yeah. So did you also then? Did you also say the greatest?
No, I didn't actually.
All right,
okay. I reserved that for you. Tim asked me to say it, and I said no. We've got Jay coming on in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to give you that.
That line in what's it called? We live in time. We live in time. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you haven't?
But that was pleasing.
Yeah.
That was rather sweet.
Well, also, they hang out, in your local places, Brockwell Park, Llewellyn's.
Yeah, they didn't check in with me first.
No, I know.
They just went there.
It's quite amazing, though, to get that shout out.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah. We should also say congratulations because you're moving to the Financial Times.
I am moving to the Financial Times.
Tim is sort of moving into a more sort of deep dive section. You're becoming the food critic.
I'm restaurant critic.
Restaurant critic.
There is a distinction. Anybody who follows Tim on Instagram will know that he loves getting under the hood of a cooking project.
Yeah. He does.
And so he'll be doing that on a monthly basis. Marina O'Loughlin comes in to write her column on a monthly basis. And there's me roaming restaurants and Jancis doing her. It's a hell of a
it's
team.
It's a crazy team.
It is.
We said it's like a Marvel sort of Avengers assemble when Tim came in.
Yeah, well, that was what Janine Gibson, who is the editor of Weekend FT, that was her descriction as well. Yeah, okay.
There's no reticence about sort of getting in amongst, as one of these four heroes.
Oh, I see where you're going. No, that's fine. No. The interesting thing is it's quite a change.
Yeah, right.
After 29 years.
29.
On The Observer, on contract, not on staff. If anybody follows media news will know there has been quite a set of ructions there.
Yeah. Well, there's a picket line. I mean,
it's been rough, but I had to make choices, and this offer came along. And I thought, I'm 58.
Yeah. Looking very well for it.
Thank you very much, darling. This will probably be the last major job, and what a great one to do. And the Weekend FT is a staggering paper. It's a really good, grown-up, proper paper.
But it feels like Chelsea Football Club in 2005, like suddenly they're putting money back into the FT in that department. It's really exciting, right?
It is exciting. Yeah. There's been a narrative in certain places, and I don't want to encourage them by saying where those places are, but that, mass media does not take food journalism seriously.
Yeah.
And the only way they
don't encourage him.
Yeah, the only way they could sustain that argument was by not mentioning what's going on at the FT.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And but there's still a lot going on. And actually, one of the interesting things, newspapers are expensive businesses, and people wonder about the cost of people like me who do the job. The most expensive thing in a newspaper is not your columnists, it's your news gathering operation. News is incredibly expensive. But in terms of drawing people in, I'm just referring to me, if you can get columnists, they may on an individual basis look like they're being paid very, very well. But if they can build a following, they're going to bring eyeballs to your website and readers to your print edition. At a lesser cost than your news operation, which you have to have.
Yeah.
A complicated old business.
So do you feel you must get so much more reach now? Ironically, people maybe feel that they sort of died out when it went away from print, but for your articles, which are shared all around the world, you must be getting more reach than ever over the last 15, 20 years.
There's absolutely no doubt. If a review of mine or any column of mine particularly goes big, then suddenly you're looking at 500,000 to 1 million page views.
Wow, yeah.
My biggest of all time, some people will probably be able to guess which it is.
Paris.
Yeah. Le Cinq. I think it's at north of 3 million now.
Wow.
That is enormous. It's not on a regular basis.
No.
So something interesting is about to happen. That's part of the trade-off of not having a paywall, which Guardian newspapers hasn't had.
Yeah.
And some might argue that that's created the financial issues which had put it in the current situation. I'm joining the FT. It has an awful lot of subscribers.
It does, yeah.
But it does have a paywall.
It does have a paywall, yeah.
That will change, but that's interesting too.
Yeah. Talking about interesting, I mean, you started writing sort of mostly in 1999 when the world was changing. Marco was retiring. Out with the old, in with the new. Jamie, Gordon, Heston.
It was a very interesting time to be doing it. St. John had opened in 94. It was literally the year Marco came up with that bollocks of I gave back my Michelin stars. for the record, you cannot give back Michelin stars. I think it was the year that Naked Chef debuted.
Yes, it was.
Jamie.
It was.
Yeah.
And
that got
I think
stars.
it was Gordon Ramsay got his 2 stars
Yeah.
or did he get his 3rd? But all of that was happening. And it was quite shiny, if very frothy and high-end. The more interesting stuff was bubbling along underneath. You know, you've got the Eagle had opened in 91.
Yeah.
The first
Where you had your
gastro
wedding
pub.
reception.
I had well briefed. I had my wedding reception there, and when Pat and I reached our 30th wedding anniversary, I called Michael Belbin, who is the man who opened the Eagle and many other great restaurants. And I said, Michael, there's an extraordinary thing has happened. Both the marriage and the venue where it started have survived, and they never do parties at the Eagle. But Michael went fair enough and closed it for that night, and we had our 30th.
What was on the menu?
Wow.
Just a whole bunch of really good, Eagle-esque things. The steak sandwich was there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was terrific. They did a really, really good job. Great.
Could we offer you to be hydrated in some form, Ben? What have you created for the wonderful J Rayner?
Well, it's not going to hydrate anyone, unfortunately.
Oh, what is it?
Well, I've read that you're not a huge fan of cocktails.
I have a couple that I like. I mean, I'm not a fan of the Negroni.
No.
People are, it's all I love Negronis, and I'm willing to accept it's a failure on my part to have reached adulthood.
Yeah.
But I do see the bitterness, the
See,
Campari bitterness or Aperol in a Negroni as punishment for something I didn't know I'd done.
Really?
No.
I hate them.
Really?
Is there anything better though than sat outside Bruto in the sun, and next to Farringdon Station
You're a
drinking
disciple,
5
Freddie.
Negronis? I think it's brilliant.
Is there anything better? Yeah, sitting outside drinking a daiquiri.
Yeah, fair play. Well,
I mean, it's just a question of taste.
yeah. Well, what have you made then?
I've not made a daiquiri.
A Negroni?
Well, I just know I've not. It sounds almost undrinkable. I think your mum made it for you.
Oh, have you made blood and pus?
I haven't made it, but I was
Maybe we're gonna
hoping
make
you
it
could
now.
show us how to what it.
I mean, it's not very. I mean, those glasses are a little bit too big.
Are they? Well, we can just do a splash.
They should be small.
Anyway, I've
look,
got some aquavit and I've got some cherry brandy. Is that what I'm meant to have?
Aquavit.
Not aquavit. Sorry.
No,
what's the other
Advocaat.
one? Advocaat. Yeah.
Have you got Aquavit?
No, you're in a lot of trouble. That was another
that's
show.
The end of
Yeah,
the
no.
week.
You're in a lot of trouble if
All
that's
right.
the case.
So,
So what is this, Jay? Can you? Our listeners are thinking, what's going on here? So am I.
okay. So my late mother Claire was part of that generation of East End Jews who really weren't big drinkers in any way whatsoever. And it's kind of a Jewish cultural thing, and we're not massive drinkers.
Yeah.
Even though I think I can share a bottle with a friend.
Yeah.
Compared to some people in the food and drink industry, I'm not even trying.
Charles Corrin can just about do it there, can he?
Quite possibly. I have no contact. But Claire didn't want to stigmatize alcohol. And so when there was a dinner party, and my memory of this is when I was 9 years old, a little bit more than that.
Yeah. Just stop me when
She called me down. That's it.
when it gets indecent.
Now,
What is this, by the way?
Advocaat.
Yeah.
Well, it's
It looks
alcoholic.
like mango lassi.
No, it's eggnog.
It's eggnog, right?
I mean, I don't want to take away the mystery. Is that camera on me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this is cherry brandy, Advocaat, which is basically boozy custard.
Yeah, delicious.
And so it would go into the glass, and I'm hoping it's splashing out
Yes.
against the side there.
Yeah.
Claire trained as a nurse, and she called this blood and pus.
It's a great name for it.
She's one of because I was all over the internet trying to work out how to make this thing.
Well, there's no.
It's just
science
that it's
going
not. But also, it doesn't. It
Don't
doesn't.
overthink
It doesn't
No.
exist.
Well,
It's obviously something that she kind of just. Anyway,
Genius creation.
we're all going to try it, Freddie. You're
Yeah,
having
yeah,
a blood
please
and
do.
pus.
I mean, it's what time is it? Oh, it's 4:10 on
Yeah.
a weekday afternoon.
I remember coming to watch you do one of your talks many years ago at Brasserie Zadel, where you also play music still, I think.
No, don't anymore there.
Don't anymore,
because
okay.
we've become a sextet. We can't fit on that stage.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, you used to back in the day.
Yeah.
But you spoke brilliantly. It was an incredible talk. But you spoke about the importance of the first paragraph when you write,
First sentence, if
or the
you
first
can.
sentence almost.
Yeah.
Could you just take our listeners through, this is a cultured show. We want to know when you're writing, because when Tim came on, he said he gave up on studying screenwriting because he hated how formulaic it was. But is there a formula? Is there?
It's not that there's a formula, but if you just think it's off the top of your head stream of consciousness stuff, I think you're going to come a cropper.
Yeah.
So I start from a simple rule, which is that nobody has to read a single thing you write, not even your mother. Your job, once you're a writer, is to make people write. And your job is to make people read.
Yeah.
And to read from the first sentence to the second, from the second to the end of the paragraph to the next, all the way to the end, before they go near the gardening column or click somewhere else on the screen. And you're not going to get into that if you treat it casually. So I am always asking myself, what is this review about? Because it's a restaurant, it's a table, it's a chair, it's a plate of food. But that's not going to do it, is it? So it's got to be about something. What's the story? And once you've worked that out, how are you going to get in? What is your first line going to be? Because without that, you're probably going to wander off aimlessly and write an unengaging piece.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't say there's a formula, but I do think very seriously about that and the way it's done. I run a writing class, and I'm very, very clear that there's no such thing as food writing. There is just writing, which happens to be about food. And the class I've taught over the past few years basically says the same thing applies, whatever the subject. And I teach it through 10 different reviews of mine, pointing out what the story was and how I got into it. These are journalistic things. I mean, one of the things I try not to be too pious about it, but it's going to sound pious, that perhaps some of my colleagues don't, is that I came up through feature writing and then hard news.
Politics, murders.
I've done it all. And I can't really give up the business of reporting. There is always a notebook in my back pocket.
Yeah, nice.
It has to be there.
Yeah.
And so I kind of cleave to those old-fashioned virtues of reporting, checking, and structure.
And is it sort of a bit like a artist doing a song, the quicker the better? Or do you have to spend days waiting on that first line sometimes?
No. Someone says, what's your inspiration? And I'd say the mortgage.
Yeah.
If you're a professional writer, you write. Some are harder than others. What I usually say is, with a following wind, I can write a 1,100 word review in 2 hours. However, it's taken me 25 years to learn
to get there.
Yeah.
If it's really going, 90 minutes and I'm done.
Really?
And if it's a pain in the butt, it will be over 2 days.
Yeah.
Can you, the sort of week by week of a ref being one of the sort of main restaurant reviewers.
This
is very good.
It's actually
I'm 9
delicious.
years old and on the piss.
Yeah, it is delicious.
How does it work? Are you selecting places? Are places sent to you? Do you eat more than once at places? Do you eat multiple restaurants and decide? How does it work?
I don't eat more than once.
No.
We can get into why the Americans do that.
Yeah.
And the piety around that. I have a whole bunch of sources for where those restaurants come from. There will be the big openings that you're aware of, a bit like big West End shows, theatre critics. If there's a new Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, they're all going to have to go.
Yeah.
I am getting press releases. I'm getting a lot of recommendations from readers, an awful lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you've got to come here. We've just...
Oh, yeah, went to this lovely place. Maybe 10 a week. I mean, seriously, large numbers. I think this is an element that will change when I move to the FT.
Yeah.
Particularly as the type of restaurant I'm likely to cover is going to change. And then sometimes I'm thinking, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? I've got a really interesting one going on at the moment. I had a slot. I wanted to go out of London. I've only got about 4 or 5 left to do for the Observer. And I hope people recognise I've paid more than lip service to reviewing out of London. And I sometimes about, find the companion, find the place. And I identified a restaurant. I'm not going to say which it is. I'm not even going to say where it is. But I think they might end up recognising themselves. Tasting menu based. And so I went on thinking, great, I'll book for lunchtime, a Thursday lunchtime in late January. How hard can it be? Every lunchtime booking is marked as wait list. I think they're waiting to see who tries to book in, and if they get enough, they'll open.
Yeah, right.
And by doing that, it seems I'm not coming to your restaurant.
Tim Hayward is saying a similar thing there about walking. He can't get bookings anywhere, and then he'll walk past the restaurant, and if over half the restaurant's full, he'll be surprised.
There are sometimes some very strange things going on.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend everything is really hard.
Yeah.
The restaurant business is incredibly tough right now.
Yeah.
And by any means necessary, and I understand why people do things, but sometimes it does look a bit odd.
Yeah.
Just going back to you giving lip service to places outside London, we had Pete Hewitt.
Not giving.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Freddie.
Yeah, sorry, no. We had Pete Hewitt on from Everyday People in Nottingham, and he was saying that your review sort of changed their fortune overnight. So it's quite incredible.
That's nice. Although this sounds a bit harsh. I think there are two ways of doing the job, or a number of ways.
Yeah.
There are some who write to impress chefs and want chefs to like them.
Yeah.
There are some who write to tell you that their car's been stolen. And then there are, the way I do it, I'm writing for the diner. And so restaurants will get in touch and say, thank you for that lovely review. And my response is always the same, which is, no thanks are necessary. You did your job and I did mine.
Yeah.
Which is a polite way of saying, I don't really care. I'm not writing the review to bring them business.
No.
I'm writing it for the readers. It's always for the
But
readers.
then at the same time, you said that you're going to strike doing bad reviews during COVID. Tim Hayward says he hasn't even got back to doing bad reviews because he feels the industry is so on its knees that would be unfair. But at that point, then what's the point in a weird way?
When I said that, which was, so we came into lockdown July the 4th,
Yeah.
2020. It's a case of one of the things we don't talk about much in journalism is our job is to read the room, to understand what the readers want.
Yeah.
And my absolute conviction at that point was the readers did not want to read us going hard on restaurants that weren't doing a good job. I always made it clear that it wouldn't be permanent.
No.
And it wasn't, because then the Dorchester opened that appalling Polo Lounge pop-up on the roof, and it was like, time to
Here we go.
crack your knuckles. I'm not sure it was always the case, but certainly now I have a simple policy: punch up, not down.
Yeah.
If it's a small, independent mum-pop operation, which is pay the bill and move on.
But do you strike reviews then if you can find somewhere else in the week to go?
Yeah.
If you have a bad experience?
Not often, because if I've gone to one of those small places and it's not very good, that is a failure of my research. I should have been able to spot it
Yeah.
before I went. I should have been able to see that, you should be able to read a menu and go, this doesn't work, or there's something wrong here. You should be, after the length of time I've been doing this, you should be able to look at a website and go, nah, that restaurant's...
Yeah, it's not going to work. It's not
gonna
yeah.
work.
Yeah.
I care less with the big, shiny £20 a starter, £45 a main course places.
Yeah.
If that's what they're going to charge, I'm coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
What about your infamous trip to Paris to review Callum Franken's place? He obviously came on this podcast and said that the review massively helped him. He learned so much from it, and it made changes to make it successful.
It's a very interesting one.
But I can't imagine many people are as mature as he is to see sense in everything you say.
Yeah.
In that regard, if they have a bad review.
All right. I saw that, and I was interested by it. He handled that review absolutely brilliantly. So I need to give you some context for this. I do know Callum, and but I didn't know him before I reviewed the Holborn Street, the Holborn Dining Room,
Yeah.
which I loved. I thought it was fantastic. When I suggested to the paper that I go and do Paris, because that was one I had to clear. Mostly I don't. The first they know is when they get the list of dishes they have to go and send a photographer to take pictures of. I said, look, I'm sure it's going to be great. Callum's fabulous. And here's an interesting story. The story being British chef takes British food to Paris. It cost probably £700 to do that story if you take in the hotel and the train.
Yeah.
And then I got there and I had a friend who was in town and they joined me. And the last thing I want to do is just, hammer it back in. But it has to be said, it was not good.
Yeah.
It was very not good. Callum wasn't there that night.
No,
he said
he
that.
was in London.
Yeah.
And I was extremely disappointed. So then I had a couple of choices. I could not write anything and swallow £700 in expenses myself. Well, it's arguable I could have done that. But the problem was that Callum has a reputation, and it was very strange just what was wrong with it.
Yeah.
And if you read that review, I think you can sense in pretty much every word how dismayed I am.
Yeah.
And it just seemed the most logical thing. Not logical. It seemed the only thing to do. I'd gone. I'd gone for all the good reasons. He'd been promoting it on Instagram for a very long time, and I went there. What I don't think has been talked about is the Fortnum & Mason Food and Drink Awards were 2 days before that review appeared. And I knew that Callum and I would be in the same room, so I gave him a heads up.
Right.
and said, I'm afraid it wasn't good. The review is not positive. And he thanked me for that. And on the night of the Fortnum Mason Awards, came and sought me out, gave me a hug, said it's all fine. And that was it. And I did sense from a couple of things he said that he was having issues in that kitchen, and everything I said enabled him or gave him the strength to go in and say certain things. Again, however, none of that is really my concern.
No.
As brutal as it sounds, it was being promoted heavily. There was a strong chance people going to Paris might think, oh, I'll go to Callum's place. And I had to say, well, right now it's not very good.
Yeah.
God, what a bastard I am.
Well, no, I think he was actually
He was delighted.
very delighted in the Woodward.
Yeah, we've never quite got into it. And I don't think would be right for me to get into that.
But I can't imagine most people react like that when you give them a bad review. Have you had any sort of chefs come after you've done reviews? No.
I mean, they might hate
not
me.
physically, but
they might hate me. They might, I quite often see really abusive stuff online. That's fine. There's no. I've actually just written something about this. Probably won't see the light of day for a couple of years for various reasons. Part of a new book, but it's basically asking the question: am I actually a total bastard? And the reason I'm asking this question is I can tell you professionally what I'm required to do. But then you have to question what sort of a person are you who is prepared to do that? To sometimes write things, even if you think they're utterly justified, to write stuff which is going to upset people. And I get into the point of saying, well, actually, everybody's a bastard because everybody's had a terrible meal, seen a terrible film, hated a book, and told their friends about it.
100%.
The only difference is that I do it publicly.
In the national paper,
That's an enormous difference because I am basically telling them to their face. So it's possible. It's possible that I am a bastard and that it is a requirement to being a journalist.
Well, there you go.
Of being a restaurant critic.
When you you're someone who likes to eat out, I imagine. Do you, as in just because it's literally your job?
Yeah.
Do you must go places and watch people's faces either light up or fall when you enter, thinking, "Oh no," or, like how does that?
All right, I'm a bit tunnel vision, and I'm a bit tunnel vision generally.
Okay.
Because if you haul around on television, there's going to be a bit of oh look, it's that gargoyle passing by. If a restaurant is any good at what they do, no.
Yeah.
I mean, they might slam through the kitchen doors and go, we've got that wanker Rayner on table 7.
Yeah.
And then everybody pulls the photograph of me off the wall and jumps on it. They might do that.
Or I'm even thinking, they think, oh, we're an esoteric little place that's doing something that we believe is good. He's come. And it's not for a review.
No,
do you know what I mean? You're just there to kind of have your tea and go home. Yeah.
The only time, I mean, if anybody's watching this and wants to know, if you see my name in the book,
you're not reviewing the place.
I'm not reviewing.
Right. Okay.
If I turn up and I wasn't under my own name, I am reviewing.
Yeah. Right. Okay. There you go.
Simple as that.
That's a nice. Yeah.
Do you ever get anything from the editor going like, Jay, that's 10 good reviews in a row? Any chance you can throw some spice in the mix and give us a bad one?
No. Never.
Fair play. How have you found your role of sort of a food critic, restaurant critic, I should say, change through the sort of democratization of different platforms and annoying things like that? Like, have you got stronger? Have you got weaker? I don't know.
All right, it's very, very simple. This I love the way we're recording a podcast. I used to do one of these.
Yeah.
As you
Oh,
went
yeah.
And we're just slamming things on the table and banging,
I know.
plunking.
Well, it keeps it
stuff
alive,
everywhere, doesn't it? Keeps it real. People. I mean, the question that's been raised is, why do we need paid restaurant critics when we've got Eat with Todd on Instagram or whatever?
Yeah.
And there are a number of answers. The first one is the only justification for what I do is, and they get paid for it, is that I'm better. Or at least that I'm authoritative and interesting and entertaining. Yeah. If I'm less interesting, less entertaining than the people doing it for free, inverted commas for free, because they may be getting in kind or whatever, then if I'm less, then my job is over. Yeah. And people get very upset about it. Oh, it's all PR orientated. Have you ever seen the number of PR freebies that come into mass media, newspapers and magazines? The idea that PR freebies for coverage is a new thing introduced by social media is such utter cobblers.
Yeah.
So people on mainstream papers and magazines ought to be very, very careful before getting uppity about that. Yeah. And in the end, all that really matters is it any good? Is what they're doing online any good? Is any of the Instagram coverage good? If it's good, then, fine. Yeah. There's this is not restaurants, it's cooking. There's a guy on Insta called El Burrito Monster, if you come across him. I think he's astonishing.
Yeah. It's extraordinary.
The amount of effort he puts in to every
Honestly,
single thing.
I watch every video thinking that is 3 days' work probably.
Exactly.
Fair play to you.
But and then, clearly he doesn't take himself too seriously because it always ends with him rolling it up and turning it into a
cutting it with a sword.
And cutting it with a sword. I think that's fantastic. Will Hughes, What Would He Cook? Who's actually become a panelist on Kitchen.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, friend of the show.
That sort of stuff I think is terrific.
Yeah.
So
Go-to food podcast, obviously.
Yeah, the go-to food podcast. I never miss it. All of this stuff, what matters is it any good? It's not about the medium.
No.
It's not about whether it's someone posting on Blue Sky or Insta or YouTube Shorts. It's about whether the content of it is any good.
Are you guys competitive, though? I mean, obviously, you've got this food critic circle, but like being actors, like being anything, I mean, your dad was an actor. You are quite competitive because you want that job. You want to get that first review in. I saw 3 people review Wildflowers a week after each other. You want to kind of get there first, don't you?
Back at the beginning, in the first few years, so we're talking... early 2000s, and maybe most of your viewers and listeners were small children. I did care about that.
Yeah,
I really did. I don't care about it now. It's of no interest to me whether someone else has already been. I don't really care if 3 or 4 of us have been to the same place. I think that's what journalism is. So, nobody gets upset when every restaurant critic nobody gets upset when every theatre critic goes along and reviews the Kate Blanchett on stage and whatever.
No.
So why they should get upset when we all go to Claude Boss's new Bouchon on the Fulham Road, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the only people who read all the newspapers are journalists.
Yeah. Do you read other people's work or not?
A little bit.
Who do you like?
I like Grace.
Yeah.
I mean, mostly I think there can be some very good stuff. Yeah, but I'm not going to give them the oxygen of publicity. I don't want to make them feel good.
Fair play. We were speaking with Emily Rue recently, and she was saying she's, I think, hoping to get a Michelin star this year. Who knows?
Fingers crossed, Freddie.
But she was saying that the industry, no matter how much work she's put in herself and lived in France for 8 years, cooking, she still gets sort of thrown the nepotism line. Obviously, I've read that you've said that people try to hit you with that a couple of times, which is ridiculous, seeing as your mum was sort of a sex therapist and an agony aunt.
An agony aunt. I mean, my line to that has been, why having a mother who was an expert on premature ejaculation should get me a job on MasterChef, I don't know. I have never pretended that I am not deep glazed in privilege. But the privilege is not necessarily the one people want to assume. The privilege is... my parents, who both came from working class backgrounds, did very nicely for themselves, bought me an expensive education, although in a school that hated me and threw me out for a while. There was money. So there was the comfort and security that brings. Yeah. And it's the self-confidence that really brings, the sense that there's always a safety net. That's key. And then the really key thing was that across my parents... there were a variety of careers and jobs which to most people look unobtainable. So my dad, God bless him, had been an actor, not very successfully, he had been an actor for a while. He was a very fine painter, even if he didn't think he'd achieved what he wanted to, but he was a very fine painter. He was my mother's agent. He'd been in PR. My mother, novelist, broadcaster, newspaper columnist, activist. These are all fantastic things. So to other people who might have seen these as, perhaps careers that were represented in drama or in books or whatever, for me, they were just things people did. That was the benefit of the privilege I had. I did everything I possibly could to kill the notion that I'd get where I am through nepotism. It's hilarious. She's been dead almost 15 years. And people still throw it at me. I chose my university specifically because it had the largest student newspaper in the country, and the editorship was a full-time job you had to be elected to. And age 16, I said, right, if I go there and I pursue my interest in journalism, and I get elected as editor of the student paper by the cynical bastards who are the student body. No one can accuse me of getting where I am through nepotism.
Yeah.
What the last thing they're going to do is actually celebrate my parentage, right? And qualifications or whatever. That's what happened. I got elected editor, and that was my first job, editor of a 25,000 circulation student newspaper.
Cool.
I'm 58. She's been dead 15 years, and they're still throwing at me. Well, fuck it. Look, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Some of the people who throw this word around, you think, get a grip.
Yeah.
Really? Is that all you can throw at me? I'm very, very proud of what my mother did.
Yeah.
Well, my mum was saying she loved your mum's.
Yeah, she was a vital
Really?
part of the conversation.
We're living with
on
erectile
sexual
dysfunction
health
sufferers.
and sexuality, and she supported enormous numbers of people.
Yeah.
And I benefit from that legacy. If you want to know what the real privilege of being Claire Rayner's son is, the people who come up to me and tell me my mother helped them.
Yeah.
And fine. And if they want me to feel embarrassed about that, well, they can fuck off.
Do one. But it was always journalism. Because you're an accomplished musician, I'm sure there's other things that you do.
I was terrible then. I was absolutely terrible. I mean, we can talk about the music side of my life, which is a side hustle that's got wildly out of control.
Spiraled.
Yeah, we're trying to buy tickets to Dean Street on the black market. We couldn't get hold of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you sort us out on the guest list? Or?
Absolutely not. That's full as well. But April the 3rd, Woolwich Works.
April the 3rd, Woolwich Works.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be there. We'll put the link in the bio for that.
Please do.
You've reviewed over 1,500 restaurants. We're going to do a new section called the Go-To Reviews, Quickfire-ish.
Oh, God.
So
well, after
we're going to get another round of these. Yeah. Can we? Ben?
Yeah, I can certainly.
Hopefully you get the
end up going home.
list.
How was the podcast? It was great.
Yeah, it was great. Love you guys.
It was blood and pus all the way.
The worst restaurant you've ever reviewed?
I stick very clearly to the fact that it has to be Le Cinq in Paris, because the Michelin 3-star of the Georges V Hotel. You can find that review online.
It's a good review.
Simply because of the gearing of cost to expectation. That meal cost €600 and was appalling.
Jesus.
So nothing else comes close.
What about the favourite review you've ever written? Asking somebody a favourite restaurant is a stupid question, as you know.
Yes.
Favourite review you've ever written?
Oh, it's such a self-regarding thing, that, isn't it?
Well, the whole podcast's about you.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a place for modesty. All right, the one I'm most fond of, just because it laughed in the face of what some of my colleagues were doing, was when I went and put a picnic table outside Salt Bay's place and reviewed a kebab.
Yeah.
So I managed to write about Salt Bay and Nazareth Steakhouse and the ludicrous stupidities of that, while also bigging up Kebab Kid in wherever it is, Putney, Palmer's Green. While sitting at a picnic.
Yeah, nice.
I look at that one, I go, because I knew that some of my colleagues would be sidling up to the managing editor of the paper saying, will you sign off on a £500 expenses bill? Whereas it wasn't going to tell me anything I didn't know.
No, exactly.
But I got to write about it anyway.
What about the hardest to write?
The hardest?
Or the hardest to write and file?
All right, technically the hardest, because it went on for 3 months, was my review of Jinju, Judy Ju's Korean restaurant. For background, Judy Ju is a Korean-American cook and TV chef and whatever. And she opened Jinju, a take on the Korean repertoire. And in the publicity, she made much of the fact that she had trained with Gordon Ramsay. I then went to the Gordon Ramsay organization and said, can you confirm this? And it was like they were gagging to be asked, and they said no. And they gave another story. So I went back to Judy Ju, and overnight she sent me a 15-page legal letter. Wow. It cost her thousands of pounds, full of testimonials from people about how great she was and how everything she said was true. I'm not going to get into the truth, reality of any of it. She stated her case. I asked some questions. The restaurant was, it's fine. But so much legal money was thrown at it, that review, that it really did take 3 months.
Yeah.
And you can go and search it up online and you can read it for yourself.
Yeah.
But that was technically... I have reported murders. I have done intelligence services stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing has been as complicated as reviewing Judy Ju's career.
Is there anything you reviewed first time off and got wrong? Thought it was pretty shocking, and then it turned out to be a success? Or?
I reviewed. There's only one.
Yeah.
Only one that I look back on and go, there was a new Mumbai-inspired cafe-style thing that opened on St. Martin's Lane. I went there and said, this just feels like a bunch of guys who are trying to roll something out. It doesn't really seem to work for me. And, I can't see much coming. Anyway, Dishoom is doing fine. Dishoom is doing absolutely fine.
That is incredible.
In my defense, although I said some things in there which I know a couple of the owners felt, well, I'll tell you what it was. There were a lot of black and white photographs on the walls. Yeah. And in the setting, it felt like they'd been bought by the yard. They were actually photographs of one of the owner's mother, I think.
Right.
And they weren't pleased about it.
You were told as much.
Yeah, I was told as much. But since then, they have actually said that some of the things I said in that review were helpful, and I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love Dishoom. I love Dishoom. I often get, from their dark kitchens in Southeast London. Yeah. Friday night takeaways.
Thank you very much.
I see some ketchups on the table. Why so? Is there a foodie little treat for Jay?
Oh, God.
It's probably going to be the scariest thing you've ever done.
Why?
Well, because Jay's terrifying with food.
I'm not terrified.
Well, I played it
with
relatively safe.
Okay, go on.
And I sort of followed my own, I just fancied this.
Oh, right.
So I've made a chicken pie with peas and ketchup.
Okay.
Does that sound all right?
Kind of. I think my wife's doing dinner after this.
No, but you don't have to, you can just politely have a forkful and say, oh, Ben, you're very clever. Well done.
Okay, Ben.
Yeah.
What about your, let's move on to drinks, as we are having another round of these wonderful drinks, which your mum invented. What is your go-to cocktail if you do drink one?
It's a daiquiri.
It's a daiquiri.
Yeah. At the beginning of...
Could have made a daiquiri.
A classic daiquiri.
Okay.
As in, there's a lot of drinks that carry the word daiquiri.
Yeah.
Frosted red, banana, caramel. Now, white rum, lime, sugar syrup. That's it.
Yeah.
You really have made a chicken pie, haven't you?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Bless
it.
We are going to come onto your cookbook in a second. But if we were coming around for supper, Ben and I, and you were going to cook for us...
You say if, Fred.
Well, when we come around for supper in Herne Hill, Tulsa, Brixton, wherever you are, what little canapes do you put out? I mean...
I don't do canapes. I just get an awful lot of good Spanish charcuterie. Okay. Olives.
Where are you getting that from?
You know where I'm getting that from.
I personally know, yeah.
I'm getting it from Brindisa, where everybody gets it from.
Yeah.
Because
in Balham or Borough?
Probably in Borough. It's easier for me to get to Borough.
Yeah, true. Fair play. What about morning drink? First thing you drink in the morning?
One of the 2 buckets of coffee that I allow myself in the day. Cafetiere. Yeah. One of my kids, she likes... we have a proper coffee setup.
Yeah.
But and so we can do full espressos and thank you, Gaggia. But for me, it's a cafetiere.
Yeah.
My wife and I split it. That's how we start.
That's a beautiful start to the day.
And then if we're both working from home, there will be a second one at 11 o'clock.
Wow.
And that's it for caffeine.
Your wife is a singer in your band, right?
Well, she's a senior academic publisher at UCL Press, but she...
Yeah, no, so I was trying to get from you what else she does, but she is also a singer in your band.
Yes, singer in the band,
that's right.
And in a way, she's the secret weapon. It's the reason the act, in the old vaudeville sense of the word, works.
Yeah.
Because there's chemistry between a couple who've been together for over 35 years, married for 30
years.
You can't fake in any way. And also, she's fucking great at it.
Yeah.
So,
And does piano hold down the band in jazz, or...?
I'm looking across at your engineer.
Louis. Grade 12
he's nodding,
jazz
saying
pianist, you said,
well, the
right?
rhythm section does.
Yeah.
And so it depends how you define the rhythm section.
Yeah.
So I have a brilliant Rob Rickenberg is a brilliant half-German bassist, so he's very precise.
Yeah.
Sophie Alloway on drums, Chris Cobson, who plays with Courtney Pine on guitar.
Wow,
and
that's awesome.
Me on piano. And that rhythm section, we are the rhythm section, we're tight.
That's incredible.
And then Dave Lewis on sax, who plays with the Blockheads and a whole bunch of other people. He used to play with John Martin and Joan Arbitrating.
Wow.
Oh, it is. They're brilliant.
Yeah.
We've been together for many years.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic, actually. I love working with musicians.
You love that more than anything else in the world, then, playing live?
I can't say that. I'm a writer first and foremost.
Yeah, and you can't beat that feel of the audience.
It's not it's being. I often say one of the brilliant things about playing jazz is you get to have direct eye contact with another adult without attempting to have sex with them.
Yeah.
It's sort of true.
Yeah.
Living in the moment.
Yeah.
And also continuing education. That sounds a bit pompous.
Yeah.
But in my late 50s, I'm constantly learning. I'm learning from them. I'm teaching myself.
Yeah.
and that's really good for the head.
Yeah.
Piano is my safe place.
Yeah.
And I hope when people come to shows,
Yeah.
that they get a hell of a lot more than they were expecting from that velvet cuffed flaneur
Yeah.
on MasterChef. Ben, should I be?
Please do.
Well, you know.
You got residency at Dean Street Pizza Express. You
Yeah.
said off camera, I believe, that your audience are very hungry as well as thirsty.
Oh well, it just look. I think that may be a function of age as well.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So we're not. Oh, you properly filled this.
But
I tried my best.
But what do you think of Pizza Express pizzas?
Now here's the funny thing. You may be aware that there is an outfit called Top Jaw.
I'm aware of Top Jaw.
Okay,
Aware
so
of
top,
them.
anybody
Fine
who's-
creators.
It's like the idea that I suggest to your audience. They don't know. Top Jaw asks people to name
audience
their
are
best of
older,
this,
they?
the best of that.
Yeah.
And I'd resisted doing it because it was a stupid. I thought a lot of the questions were just ludicrous and unanswerable.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I had a big book out, and my PR said, the PR at Penguin said, "You're an idiot. Go and do
Yeah,
it."
you've got to do it. Yeah.
And so I shamelessly said to them, "Well, now I've got a big book out. Can I do it?"
Yeah.
And they went, "All right then." And one of the questions was best pizza. Now they cut it when they put it out. 'Cause
Really?
What I said was,
Go on.
I think it would only be fair if I named the American hot Romana base with extra anchovies at Pizza Express Dean Street because I eat it 12 times a year.
Yeah.
We have a residency there.
a very good answer.
And part of the deal when you play at Pizza Express
Get a free pizza.
is you get free pizza,
Yeah.
you get dinner. And I eat that more often than any other, so it would be somewhat disloyal of me to say anything else. I do actually really like that pizza.
I think it's
It's a
really
good
good.
pizza. I was
Mark
in
Berry's
Pizza
favourite
Express
as
this
well,
weekend,
yeah.
Freddie.
Were you there this weekend?
Yeah. For the first time
What
in
did you go
about a
for?
decade.
Same order.
Well, just a straight up American hot
Yeah.
on that thin base. Is that the Romana?
Romana base,
Yeah,
yeah.
Unbelievable.
I think they were
Add
doing
the
crisp.
salted anchovies.
Oh, really?
They were doing crisp pizzas before they were sexy. Yeah.
I mean, look, declaration of intent. I am an employee in a way,
Yeah.
although it's a partnership because
Yeah.
I fill their jazz room and
They pay
we
you.
all do very nicely.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I get a cut at the door, and
Yeah.
so let's just be clear on the commercial relationship. My kids are now 21 and 25, but
Yeah.
anybody in London who has had small children, a certain middle class, will be in love with Pizza
Love it.
Express because they never make you feel infantilized.
No.
It's a place you can take your kids
Yeah.
and feel like you're actually having
Yeah.
proper family time.
Yeah.
It's a clever business. Are there better pizzas in London? Almost certainly. But I'm still very fond of it. And also, a lot of people don't really know. They all think it's if they don't know, think it's crazy that you're playing jazz.
Yeah.
Peter Boyzo, who set up Pizza Express, was a massive jazz fan.
Yeah.
And it's arguable that he created Pizza Express so he could have the jazz rooms. Dean Street, the jazz room there, is the second most important jazz room after Ronnie's.
Yeah.
Been there since 1976, and everybody has played there.
Wow.
It's very, very
Kings Road
important.
has got one as well, does it?
The
Well, they
Kings
used
Road
to.
is the Pheasantry,
Yeah.
and then Holborn has got one.
Wow.
And Holborn's really good as well.
Yeah.
And they are a vital part of the jazz music economy in London.
Yeah.
And I am very, very proud to have a residency with them and play once a month. It's fantastic.
Do you want to finish with the hangover?
Yeah, well, you've written about having a hangover, right? You say you
Well-
remember more of your hangovers than you do getting there, but
Now, the line I came up with, you see this as a journalist, writers, one of the great things about being a writer, so let's hit my mic.
you're fine.
One of the great things about being a writer is you get to straighten out the lines of life.
Yeah, right.
You get to
Yeah.
put form onto them. And it was a thing that occurred to me, which was that as I got older, I realised I hated hangovers more than I liked being drunk.
Yeah.
And that's quite a moment to realise that. A bit distressing.
Yeah.
But there you are. That's how it is.
Does that mean you no longer have hangovers? Do you have a good way of dealing with them? What's the process here?
Process of dealing with a hangover.
Correct, yeah.
I don't have the savage ones anymore.
No.
I never get there. I know where the line is. It's half a bottle and maybe 2 cocktails before.
Yeah,
That's
right.
it.
That's it.
Anywhere over there, I'm going to know.
So we still can bring out half a bottle, you'll be fine.
What, right now?
Yeah, I'm joking.
No, don't.
Sorry.
And not too often.
No.
It's ibuprofen and it's paracetamol and it's water and that's it. And also suck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The one thing
get
I
on with it.
cannot bear is an adult who says, "Oh no, I'm going to hangover." It's like you inflicted that upon yourself. Just get on with it.
Get on with it, get up.
Get up.
Get
and
out.
Get on with it.
Yeah.
Well, what have you made of the Devonshire? Just popping into my head. Have you been there? Do you want to go there?
and like a wrecking crew, aren't they? You look at the people involved; they knew exactly what they were doing. Incredibly clever, incredibly slick. The restaurant up the top. Ashley Palmer Watts knows exactly what he's doing. Yeah. There is no point in this world rolling your eyes at something that's popular in London because everybody wants to be there. I mean, why? Why would you even bother? You know, this is a good thing. I think the amount of Guinness they put out is hilarious.
Yeah.
I think it's even more hilarious that Guinness refuses to give them a discount. Do you know about this?
Is that right?
Oshin was talking. He was saying that they tried to, so what they did was they got a PR company to look at the value of all the press that they've given Guinness in the column inches, like £1.8 million of free PR.
Wow!
And went to Guinness and said so. And they went, no.
I love it. Yeah.
He put out that video. I think it was just after Christmas.
Oh, what,
where he's just filling the
barrel?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I thought it was a sort of AI generation. I mean, that was like. It's
I had a really nice dinner there, and I've had one shortish evening in that back room.
Yeah, the green room.
Yeah, the green room, which is.
Why was it so short?
Because it's not my scene. No. It's not. It's
not my idea. Music.
It's not my idea.
If they're playing jazz, maybe.
Well, it's not my idea of fun. It's just not to be in an extraordinarily crowded room being shouted at by young people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's their culture. I can't get it.
Yeah.
I'm not meant to be in that room. It's not for me.
No. But so you think it's sort of scientifically calculated within an inch of his life, almost sort of mathematically put together for success?
That makes it sound sterile and cynical. I don't think it is.
No, but with a vibe.
No, I think it's a bunch of people who know what makes for a good pub, and they did it.
And they're delivering. Yeah.
Your parents were two working class East End Jews.
Yeah.
Before they sort of started to make some good money and be successful. What are your memories of growing up in a sort of East End Jewish inspired family? Were you eating Ashkenazi food or not?
No, you're eating. So my mother Claire would sort of recoil slightly from her background. My father much less so.
Yeah.
And yet there are so many hilariously Jewish mama things about her.
Yeah.
The table was always full. The first sentence I ever wrote, which I looked at and thought that works, was "I'm a Jew by food. I worship at my mother's fridge."
Yeah, very good.
Thank you. I was 19 when I wrote that, and I thought, oh, you might have a...
This
might work.
Yeah.
But it was a reasonable description.
Yeah.
We communicated over the table. Lunchtimes on Saturdays, they'd go out shopping in the morning, then Phil and it was called Fick and Porridge, which is a spoonerism of pick and forage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, family jokes are for nobody else's ears. And people would drop in.
Yeah.
And so it was that element of it, but also a noisy conversational one.
Yeah.
We talk.
Yeah.
That's what Jews do.
Did your mum cook? Or?
Yeah, she did. I mean, hilariously, my sister and I think, slightly disagree on this. Which is, I did think she was a great cook. And there were things she did that were lovely. If she had, someone... This is very nice, by the way.
Thank you.
You've made a very fine...
It is lovely.
And that's your own pastry, isn't it?
It's my own pastry. I mean, it's also sat in a bag.
Inspired by Jeremy Lee, I think. Is it?
Did he get one as well?
No, he got...
What did he get? Pear and rosemary French pan tart.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought.
Mum's cooking, sorry.
So if she had someone important coming around, she'd do a kulibiak, which kind of dates us, which is, if you don't know what kulibiak
is... it like salmon and...
Yeah, salmon and wild rice and layered inside pastry and bake. It's salmon en croûte, the layer of wild rice. I always knew when the important people were coming because the kulibiak.
Yeah.
But the main thing, my main recollection of my mother's cooking, she was busy. These were the chicken brick years. So she would put a whole chicken in a chicken brick at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and then put it in an oven on a low heat and go off and be busy. Yeah. And I was probably well into my 20s before I discovered that roast chicken had texture. I mean, it tasted very nice.
Yeah.
Was chicken brick, is that a Conran thing?
Yeah.
Or was it,
he did popularise it.
But it existed before that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Very funny. I mean, and actually a great way to cook things. And gave her a way to cook things for 9 hours at a time.
So nice.
Yeah.
I read that your mum used to take you out for lunch, though, when she was working, your first sort of experiences of all these, like, colourful, playful restaurants.
I always say there are two places where I learned to eat out. One was Joe Allen, we can come back to that, and the other one was Rules.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Which...
Rules of the Strand, right?
Maiden Lane. Been there since 1790-something.
Yeah.
There's a competing claim for oldest restaurant in London between Rules and Wilton's.
Wilton's, yeah.
And it was located opposite what were the offices of Woman's Own, a big circulation magazine at its time, for which my mother was columnist. And once a year, she would take each of us separately up on her rounds. It took place on a Tuesday. So she would go up to town and she would deliver copy physically to the offices, whichever newspaper she was on, whether it was the Sun or the Sunday Mirror or Today. And then go on to another meeting, and there would always be lunch, and lunch would be at Rules. And it was there that I first tried oysters.
Yeah.
We sat side by side on a banquette, looking out, which you don't get much of these days. No. And it was, although it was very old school, I would say Rules hasn't massively changed.
Really?
It's really held on to itself, and I've never reviewed it.
No.
I've written about it, but I've never reviewed it.
I was there just before Christmas. Great experience in there.
They do what they do exceedingly well.
It? Yeah.
And the little cocktail bar upstairs.
The cocktail bar was great.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it still Brian Silver?
I think so.
Anyway, what they do very, very well.
Yeah. And then Joe Allen's? Obviously.
It's very hard to communicate to people who weren't there just how significant a restaurant Joe Allen's was. It opened in January 1977. I think I went in March. I would have been 10 or 11.
Yeah.
10. They had a pianist, Jimmy Hardwick, who would actually, he was brought in to play so they could have a late license, because if you had live music, you could stay open until 2. He knew the score of every single musical, and everybody would come off stage. Yeah. If they were going to go out for dinner, that's where they went. To the left of the wall, not the right. The right was Suburbia. And the menu was up on a blackboard. We're talking late 70s. Yeah. Nobody had done that before. There was a hamburger, but you had to know about it. Off-menu item.
Under the counter,
Nobody had done that before.
Yeah.
And then you have to look at the roll call of who cooked there and who worked there. And, Roly Lee was the head chef.
Yeah, doing the omelette,
at Joe Allen. Jeremy King started there while Chris Corbin was over at Langer's. Obviously,
John Spiteri.
Yep, and Russell Norman. Enormous numbers of people.
Was it? Is it a New York transplant? Is that?
It is a New York transplant, but arguably the London outpost was more important than the
really
New
right.
York one.
But was it a chain of two? It's not like it was. There was lots in America
one in
and
Miami for a while. Right. Didn't really work. Then they opened Orso's, and they were linked by a kitchen, but it was up on the other side.
Yeah.
But in its heyday, it was astonishing.
Yeah,
it really was. I write in Nights Out at Home about their Caesar salad, which at the beginning was served in a wooden bowl, and they got away with it, I think, for about 3 years until Westminster Health and Safety went, you can't do this. Yeah. But their Caesar salad was the best in London. And in fact, it was the original. It was a proper Caesar salad.
So that's what you went for, that and a burger off menu?
No, I went for... I would always have the Caesar salad, which even as a 10-year-old I thought was odd. Yeah. Fat 10-year-old with appetites, ordering a salad. What was that about? Yeah. And then the spare ribs with black-eyed peas and a little corn, what they call cornbread.
Yeah.
Oh. And then maybe a brownie a la mode.
Oh.
And it was great. Absolutely terrific. And I have to say, the guys who got it now from Lawrence and who moved it into that spot when Robert De Niro's company said they were going to turn that building into the original building into a hotel that didn't happen. Yeah. They've done an extraordinary job. Joe Allen's is still very much alive, and you should still go to it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Talking about your book Nights Out at Home, it's a wonderful read. But what was the quick sort of overheadline concept for those who don't know? Because it's inspired by a lot by the restaurants you've eaten and the dishes.
No, it's totally inspired. So I realised one of the benefits. One of the lucky things was I spotted in 2021, I think, that my 25th anniversary as restaurant critic for The Observer was advancing, and as long as a meteor didn't hit me and I, didn't get cancelled, I was likely to hit my 25th year in 2024. Yeah. And there are many projects that have happened as a result of COVID, and this is one of them, because I have always reverse engineered things. If I went to a restaurant, liked a dish, or liked the idea in it, I go, I could do that. Go home and do that. I remember right at the beginning, like 99, I went to the Green Street Seafood Cafe in Bath, which was Mitch Tonk's first restaurant.
Really?
And there was a little bowl of chopped herbs with garlic and olive oil and lemon and anchovies. I thought it was fantastic. I didn't know it was called salsa verde because I was an idiot.
Yeah.
To be fair, neither did Mitch. He said he didn't realise until he saw Rick Stein making it.
Yeah.
I went home and made it. And I thought, I've carried this home. And I would do it all the time.
Yeah.
And then during COVID, it accelerated. I started really, I couldn't go to restaurants, so I started making a few things that I made.
Right.
And I thought, actually, a book which is full of recipes, not recreating. They're not recreations because you can't recreate restaurant dishes, most of them. I describe these recipes as inspired by the original.
Yeah.
But also, it's a book to read. I'm a writer. People want my writing, so it's a book full of stories and reflecting on that 25 years of experience, with a few other things. None of the recipes are from big name chefs because they've all got their cookbook.
Yeah.
You don't need those. You don't want me telling you how to recreate Gordon Ramsay's tart tatin.
A lot are from sort of London establishments, though, right?
Quite a lot of London, but it's all over the country, and there's a few in the
UK.
States. And a couple. I think there's a couple of French references.
What about the charred hispy cabbage with scampi fries and Monster Munch?
Terrific. That. So that's Jimmy Preston's thing from XO Kitchen in Norwich. It wasn't quite a review. I'd actually reviewed another French place called Lexicon in Norwich that day. And then I'd done one of my live shows, and he'd kept them and said, if you come in late, I'll sort you out. And we'd ordered the hispy cabbage. And I literally shouted across the restaurant. I said, Jimmy, what's in this XO crumb? And he went, well, XO sauce has a seafood element, so that's scampi fries. It's also got a pork element, so that's frazzles. Then he paused and went, Monster Munch might have been involved.
Brilliant.
Genius.
Yeah.
It's absolute genius.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of charred hispy cabbage in this world.
Yeah.
You
There
guys
is.
love charred hispy cabbage. I know why.
It's delicious.
It's delicious. It's portionable.
Portionable.
It's relatively cheap.
Yeah, you're doing something.
And it's hard to overcook it because
That's literally almost the design. Yeah.
you want it burnt because brassicas take a char really, really well.
Yeah.
And I wanted to include one of them, and it was a no-brainer that it should be that, because I also liked the fact it was a part-work recipe in that it required the full recipe. Here's his salad cream. I wasn't going to do that, but I've got a thick vinaigrette in mind.
Yeah.
Black bean sauce and his black bean sauce idea, and that is literally his. And then I changed the crumbs slightly because he uses a few fancy chefy things.
I know you've always had little recipes you've released in several of your other books as well, but like none to this degree. But now you've done the recipe book, it's gone down an absolute storm. Brixton Market always has availability for little pop-ups.
No.
I see where you're going, Freddie.
Jay Rayner.
Come on.
No,
If we did, what would you be cooking?
I'm not doing it.
No, if you did.
No, I mean, one of the joys of the book was that I could do almost anything.
Because you also won MasterChef the Professionals.
I did.
Giving more...
And that was a victory that swelled the nation's heart.
Yeah, it was brilliant. But come on, if they, Robin Gill, well, actually, maybe not Robin Gill, obviously he was angry after one of your reviews, but if
I had to call him out on that, actually.
Yeah, go on.
And I did call him out after seeing it because he called it dishonest. Dishonest suggests I was lying about what I thought of his restaurant. I wasn't lying.
No.
And that restaurant at Great Scotland Yard was shocking.
Yeah.
And he should have been ashamed of it, not calling me out and calling it dishonest.
Yeah.
Any restaurant where the waiters are walking around carrying knuckle dusters, which are literally illegal, there is no excuse for it.
They're carrying knuckle dusters.
Yeah.
Was it sort of whole pastiche thing?
It was all Great Scotland Yard used to be the headquarters of the police.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So we're going to play up to that. Outside in the foyer is art made by people who are in prison, which is obviously, if you're going to spend £100 a head, there's nothing more than better than social crime pornography.
Yeah.
Then you go into the restaurant and they're wearing knuckle dusters and dressed up looking like Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
Schmucks, and then the food was not very good.
Odd experience.
It was an odd experience and it was clumsy and it was not Robin Gill's finest hour. And to say that I'd been dishonest, you can call me anything you like. You say you disagree.
Yeah.
You can go, life is not fair, but don't call me and accuse me of lying. Yeah, I called him out for it.
Yeah,
if someone came up, what kind of food are we doing? We're not doing it.
This isn't going to work.
Sorry.
I'm not
I'm trying to
do
inspire.
it.
It's not going to happen.
I mean, I'm sitting and thinking, oh God, I'm going to make up an answer because I'm not
don't
going to
worry
do
about
it.
It's not going to happen.
What about...
I know how hard it is to run a restaurant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mark Hicks inspired sort of Ivy duck salad.
Oh, the crispy duck salad thing.
duck
I mean, in a
salad
way, that kind of sum up the whole, way the book worked. So I've been eating Mark's crispy duck salad, originally crispy pork when it was on the menu at Le Caprice.
Yeah.
Didn't sell, and it was because he realised most of his clientele was Jewish. So he changed it to crispy duck. And it has this kind of, if you haven't had it, it has the flavour profile of crispy duck and pancakes, but it's on a salad. And I remember eating it thinking, this is great. I wonder if there's a way I can do this. And so I went home and I got a couple of confit duck legs and I fried them till crisp and broke them up, turned them in hoisin sauce, right there. Then after that, I looked at Marx's actual recipe, which is online, and it is a conscientious chef's recipe. You've got to simmer 12 duck legs in aromatics for 2.5 hours. You let them dry, you break them up, you deep fry them, you turn them in a sauce with 7 ingredients before and it takes clearly about 6 hours from top to bottom, whereas mine took 20 minutes. And every single chef whose original dish inspired one of mine in the book was contacted by me to be asked, is this okay? Can you give me your blessing? If you don't want me to, I won't do it. I remember I called Mark, who I know a little bit, and said, this is what I'm doing. And he went, yeah, that would work. So in a way, that really is. This is inspired by that. But the main thing I do also say is don't take these as me saying don't go to restaurants, you can make it at home. Because that's not a restaurant. A dish in your own kitchen is not a restaurant.
No.
It's just something for dinner.
What about the death of the ivy?
Oh, it's pretty tragic, really. I was a long-term member of the Ivy Club up above. And credit to Richard Caring for that. He created that, and he created an interesting space. It had a very, very vibrant jazz scene. And that's where a lot of my early playing took place with some amazing musicians, and they mixed a very good daiquiri. But then you started hearing word from downstairs that things were happening, that this chef had left because they wanted to bring certain cheaper ingredients in, and then Gary was gone. And then they were spinning out the cafes.
The grill or the...
Nothing to do with West Street, the original. Look, he's a wealthy man. He owns a brand and he owns the iconography of the Ivy, and he can do what he likes. And just because Rayner thinks it's all a bit sad is neither here nor there.
Well, Chef Colin Franklin said that he left as soon as he heard that he arrived.
The interesting thing is that in the first few years of Caring arriving, he was very much a custodian. I don't know if you recall, he closed the Ivy for a little while. And we all wondered what would emerge, and actually what emerged was the Ivy. A beautiful redesign, and the Ivy Club up above, which I was very devoted to. The employment decisions during COVID for the staff at the Ivy Club were not great. And that's when I ended my membership.
Well, we will put a link for your incredible book in the bio as well. Jay, we're going to go into your go-to food section, starting with your go-to delivery order.
Probably Thai from Kawasan in Brixton Village.
Oh, nice.
I do like it. And people think this is just me playing up to kind of parody because I'm famous for it, Ken's on Half Moon Lane between Herne Hill and Dulwich. If I want fish and chips, he does a very good job.
On the way to West Dulwich, isn't it?
It's straight down Half Moon Lane towards East Dulwich Grove.
Fair play. Benny jumping in?
I'm like completely lost in the script, Freddie, to be honest with you. I'm frantically trying to get to where we are.
Midweeks.
What's your go-to midweek restaurant, Jay?
If I find myself, and often on a kitchen cabinet record day, so kitchen cabinet's the Radio 4 show. There's never really going to be a chance for a proper dinner, and I you don't want to do that feeling hungry. I go to the Four Seasons, the Chinese restaurant on Gerrard Street for Cantonese roast duck and dry-fried green beans and no rice.
No rice.
And if you're
save off the carbs.
If you're cooking?
If I'm cooking at home midweek, I have a particular love for a fancy-looking dinner that I can get on the table in 45 minutes. So grilled lamb chops, anchovy sauce, braised white beans, salad, chips if the kids demand it. Kids, 21, 20.
Sounds great.
I can do that in 45 minutes and
a bit quicker than your 8-hour slow roast.
The 8-hour slow roasted shoulder is fantastic. It's brilliant.
What about a meal deal combination? People have asked us to bring this question back. We stopped asking it a bit, but your favourite meal deal combination?
I mean, anybody who's asking me that question doesn't know me.
I know,
not because there's an assumption what my meal deal combination will be. It's just I've never bought one.
Yeah, but we need to ask everyone.
You have to
Most
ask.
chefs don't like it, and Jay, you didn't enjoy it either.
Well, no, it's...
You've never had one? You've never been driving down to the countryside with your family and
No.
you've stopped in an M&S service station?
Don't shoot me.
Little prawn
Yeah,
mayo.
yeah.
Prawn mayo.
Well, what about a sandwich then?
Oh, it's going to be a bacon and lettuce tomato sandwich, and
Yeah.
I'm going to sort of hate myself a little bit.
Yeah.
Not because I think they're crap or anything, just because it's not as good a bacon sandwich as a bacon sandwich can be.
Have you ever been to Max's sandwich shop?
No, I haven't.
You should go.
You should.
I've heard that many times. I like the cut of his jib.
He's got a
he's an
nice.
interesting looking
Ben
man.
wrote the books with him.
The one thing I love is that the only 24-hour concession inside the Hippodrome is his.
That's true. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So if you want one of Max's sandwiches at 5 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
the
Go to the
Hippodrome on
Hippodrome.
Leicester Square
Yeah.
is where
Wow.
you need to go.
Yeah.
Well,
And he's got a good way with scampi fries in there, I think.
Has he?
Yeah.
All the best people.
Go to spice when you're knocking off a meal.
I think a lot of people will quietly have one of these but won't admit to it. There's always a tub of one of those mixed spices. Mine
Yeah.
is Caribbean everyday
Yeah. Nice.
spice. Is it Dunn's? One of those mixes, which is garlic, salt, and paprika, and ground pepper, and probably MSG and sugar in there.
Yeah.
All the good.
It's all the
things.
good stuff.
All the good things.
go to random fridge snack combination. You're maybe just come back from a show. You haven't eaten your pizza, so you're a bit hungry. You open the fridge. What weird things do you put? Like, do you ever put I don't know, something with something, and you're like, that's delicious.
I'd have to make up an answer because no, I don't.
No, Pepper.
Sorry.
You mustn't make up an answer.
No, please don't. Pepper. Not like cheese with something weird.
No.
No.
At that time, if I come back from a gig, one of the reasons I'm glad that we play 25 times a year, which is quite a lot as a side hustle.
Yeah.
But you come off stage, the adrenaline is
So
flooding, so the booze doesn't touch the sides.
No,
It'd be really dangerous.
Yeah, you need like class A drugs or something.
Yeah.
Have you got a guilty pleasure or a dish that kind of will guarantee to cheer you up?
All right, I'll deal with both of those. No, I do not have a guilty pleasure. I decline to feel guilty about food.
That's the right
Because when
answer.
we start feeling guilty about food, where do we stop?
Yeah.
It's
Ben always says
pernicious.
that. Yeah.
That's
Absolutely
that's the right
pernicious.
answer, Jay.
I remember Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall being asked about this, and he said, I sometimes put a Snickers in the fridge and have it with a pint of beer and ale. Fucking live
Yeah,
with it.
absolutely. Devil here. Well, he's normally on the roadkill, so that probably was a treat for him.
I'm a big fan of cheese on toast.
Yeah.
And I once got into a national kind of outrage bit with Richard Coles, where we did a cheese on toast off on Saturday Live, the Radio 4 show.
Yeah.
And his was very straight up, and I was piling on bacon and Caribbean everything.
Yeah.
Tabasco, and everybody thought this was an outrage. I see cheese on the toast as a platform for whatever is knocking around in the fridge. It's not going to happen when I come home late, but that's the thing.
That's where you play out that.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to locations, starting with your go-to weeknight restaurant. Nothing fancy, but you keep going back.
I thought you just done that.
Yeah, we did.
did we?
Yeah,
That's the one
I
I
said
did,
Four
Freddie.
Seasons.
That's the Four Seasons.
Oh, sorry.
Crispy roast
Favorite
duck.
place for a special supper?
Bentley's on Swallow Street.
Yeah.
I do love really good seafood.
Yeah.
Richard, I love you, so don't take offence at this, but you do have to take a slight deep breath. I don't want to pretend that wandering into Bentley's for dinner is something I can do every day because, fuck me, the prices.
Yeah.
But it's really good.
Yeah.
Where are you sat? They're now got
At
that
the
sort
bar.
of full-time outside
Oh, not
warm
there.
area, don't they?
No. I want to be at the
You want
Marble
to be
Bar.
at the bar.
At the bar.
Okay. Fair.
What's the order, if that's not too personal a question?
It depends. Sometimes I go the spicy mussel and lemongrass soup.
Yeah.
And then follow that up with the seafood cocktail.
Well, nice.
And actually, the seafood cocktail, I suppose, is meant to be a starter, but
Yeah.
that side of their chips, and I'm very happy.
Oh.
I went there only on Saturday on research for a recipe I'm working up for a possible,
Oh, we got it. Is there a follow-up?
Give it exclusive, Jay. Come on.
Well, look, I'd never eaten lobster thermidor.
Yeah, right, okay.
I'd never had a reason to review it because it's not that.
Well, it sounded like a slightly disgusting thing.
Well,
Has it got cheese on it?
It sounds like lobster thermidor. The lobster is taken out the shell. You make there are a variety of ways to make the sauce.
Yeah.
Which can be hollandaise and lobster bisque and gruyere cooked down. Put the meat back in, put it bound in the sauce and grill it with cheese on top. The other way is bechamel with some sort of lobster reduction and so forth. And I realized if I was going to do something around this, I needed to try one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went back to Bentley's.
And how is it?
Very good.
Is it? Right.
It is very good.
Yeah.
Does it feel lighter than it should? Or?
No. It's a half lobster for £36 or the full for 72.
Oh, wow.
I had the half.
Yeah.
And that was enough.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Fair play. What about your go-to pub?
This will probably disappoint you. I do not have a go-to pub. I've never really been into pub culture.
No.
I just haven't.
No.
And some people...
So you don't go to the Half Moon by Anne Hill? Or?
No. I mean, sometimes I've gone to the Prince Regent, but
Yeah.
on Dulwich Road, which I like.
Yeah.
But it's nothing... it's just not me.
No.
That's absolutely fair enough.
I'm terrible at being a bloke.
Yeah.
Don't do bloke very well.
Fair play.
Have you got a hidden gem?
No, because
You write about them.
I mean, there are some that people might forget. So when I looked at, so I've got my list of those questions, and what did I write about? I wrote C&R Cafe down Rupert Court, which is a brilliant
Very good.
Malaysian restaurant, but it's not really hidden, is it? And
No.
and there is a thing in
You and Jonathan Nunn are very well aligned, Jay.
oh Jesus,
You ever see each other in there?
all we can say there is that Mr. Nunn clearly has learned well. There's a point I make actually writing about a brilliant place in Nottingham called Cushy R,
Yeah.
which is, you could make the mistake of calling it a hidden gem. They're not hidden.
No.
You just haven't found them.
Yeah,
they
right.
know where they are. It's like those anthropologists in the mid-20th century who say, we found a missing tribe. They're not missing. They know where they are.
Yeah.
You just happen to
You
ruin
just-
their lives by stumbling upon them.
Yeah.
And there's this thing of, oh, I found a hidden gem. It's not hidden.
No.
They're there, and lots of people know about it. I mean, the
Just
one-
not you yet, yeah.
Yeah, there's a place in Whitstable, the original Wheelers,
Yeah.
with a back room with just 12 seats, and on a Sunday it would do 36 covers.
Yeah.
And I did make the mistake of calling that a hidden gem, and then lots of people came at me. I was like 2001 and said,
Yeah.
it's not hidden, just happens to be in the back.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Whistle.
you're-
Okay, yeah, you're right.
What about your dream long weekend getaway for like a foodie weekend? You taking you and the wife, maybe the kids, maybe the kids.
Leave the kids at home.
21 and
kids.
25 now.
Yeah,
No.
you and the
I
wife.
mean,
4 days.
4 days?
Yeah.
Oh, blimey. That sounds like a very long time. It's not my idea of heaven, actually.
No?
All sounds a bit exhausting. Those things where you're meant to go away and just eat and eat and eat and eat. And
Right.
I sometimes hear about, get invited on food press trips. I never take any of them.
No.
Because they do sound slightly nightmarish. But if I was forced to come up with an answer to this, I would probably head to Aldeburgh in Suffolk.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Stay at the Suffolk Sumer,
Yes.
which is the seafood pub launched by George Pell, who used to be at Escargot.
Yeah.
And it's very, very lovely. And then you'd be in, hitting distance to places like Orford and other,
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got some
Great
good
places
places
around
in
there.
Aldeburgh.
That's a good shout. There's a nice pub. I don't know what it's called, but it's on Instagram. It's called a Suffolk pub.
Oh, really?
Is that
Yeah,
near
in
Aldeburgh? Do you know what I'm talking about? That it's called. Okay, right. The Suffolk.
Sumer is George Pell's pub in Aldeburgh.
Right.
Right, okay. It looks
There you
amazing.
go. Anyway, well
So it
done.
is called the Suffolk.
Okay, the Suffolk. That
Jay, we're going to play Deli Steady Cook to finish off.
Steady cook.
Deli Steady Cook, which is
Deli
the
Steady.
game where Ben is going to bring out.
Got to go behind the curtain again.
Yeah, you got to get behind the curtain. He's going to bring out a couple of items.
Look at the state of this.
I know. The peas are going everywhere.
I've thrown peas on the floor.
And
Am
it's
I going to
basi-
enjoy this game?
yeah, you are. It's basically Ready Steady Cook, but we provide 4 or 5 sort of items or products, and you can bring anything to the party, and you make a dish out of them.
Although I'm not actually making a dish, I'm just telling you what I would do.
Yeah. Well, do you have the 4 top burners out there, then? We could bring those in and start cooking if you want, but no. You basically just say what you would do, and you can bring anything to the party.
Okay.
So what's in the bag today, Ben?
I've just trodden the peas into
Oh, it's
the
okay.
carpet, Freddie.
It's okay.
Jay, this is your bag.
Okay, I'm thrilled.
It's quite a nice bag.
That's a lovely bag.
So,
Who doesn't like a good toast?
we've got some very nice ramen noodles from the Fresh Flour Company.
Okay.
Little British. I'm going to put those.
It's
Can,
You
can
put
I
them-
ask, are they promoting the show? Or
They are.
They're partners.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Just wondered.
Yeah. They're partners.
Don't know if you have you come across Reuben while he was
He was
doing
in
his-
Brixton.
Brixton.
Oh,
Reuben's
yes,
Reuben.
I have.
Yeah.
I went in and I had a very good Reuben sandwich.
Yeah.
He's a
Love
good
it.
boy.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's made a hot honey mustard.
Okay.
What you'll find is these don't make any sense. Joe.
Yeah, you like to stitch people up.
This is a little Dijon vinaigrette by a company called Gret. They've dropped
I
the
mean,
fin.
am I allowed to point out that putting a Dijon vinaigrette alongside a honey mustard is
Yeah.
like denim on denim?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the
But you can do whatever you want.
Texas tuxedo. whatever it's
Different
called.
dishes. Or...
This is a little hot pepper jelly.
Okay.
You're going to have to be very creative. And finally, we've got a seasoning, a salt and pepper seasoning, which is sort of Szechuanese. You've got some star anise, you've got Szechuan peppercorns, you've got fennel, you've got cloves, you've got some MSG.
Right.
You can bring anything and do it.
And bring stuff to the party and ignore stuff.
Yeah. Take stuff home and give it to your kids.
Boneless skin on chicken thighs are being marinated in a mixture of the red pepper jelly and the salt and pepper seasoning, chopped up, actually.
Yeah, nice.
Boned out, cut them up. And then these are basically going to be simmered in a little bit of chicken stock.
Yeah, nice.
Quickly, so put those to one side. Take the chicken thighs, let them marinate for a bit, and then get a round pan, sear it, get it good and hot.
Yeah.
Sear those bits of chicken thigh back and front.
Yeah.
And then make a quick sauce around them of honey, soy, and vinegar.
Nice.
With garlic and ginger.
Yeah.
So garlic and ginger first. Then deglaze with the soy and the vinegar. Throw in the honey. Let it bubble away. A whole bunch of spring onions chopped up.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they wilt over the top. Stock, noodles, chicken on the top.
Cheers.
This
It gets better and better every time we play this game. Jay, congratulations.
I'm always blown away by people coming up with very delicious things.
I know, that's very good.
Because it's a ridiculous game. So thank you.
Well, I have to say, the chicken thing is something I've done before, but it would work.
It would
very
work.
well. It would work.
Yeah.
I mean, in case everybody thinks, "Good God, where did that?"
That Rayner is very impressive, man.
Take the proclaim. That was great.
Right.
Jay, you've been absolutely wonderful. We're going to link your upcoming show in April, and we're going to link your book as well. And
Marvellous.
I mean, you haven't started working for the FT yet, so there's no point of linking any of that stuff.
I mean, well, when does this drop?
Probably next week or the week
Yeah.
after.
Okay. My last review will appear in the Observer on March the 9th. My first review will appear in the FT as things stand March 22nd.
Well, we'll see you there.
Do you know what you've lined up for that first one?
I'd have to kill you if I did.
Yeah.
But do you know?
I have a strong idea. One of the interesting things about the new job, and this is entirely reasonable, is that for the past few years, I've never had to tell my editors at the Observer what I was going to do because they knew that I knew what it had to be. I am moving to a new place with a new culture, and it's going to change.
Yeah.
And so I will be clearing my choices with them in some detail.
Well, Jay, you've been absolutely incredible. Honestly, that was one of the greatest 70-odd minutes of my life.
Of course.
But we're going to finish.
You should get out more.
I should do. I'm going to leave this red room.
One day we'll leave.
Yeah, but we got to ask you just to finish off. What is your go-to 3-course meal?
Oh, anywhere, anytime.
Anywhere, any time of the year.
I mean, it's going to sound really boring,
That's
but
fine.
I want a really well-made Caesar salad.
Yeah.
I want a big plate of proper American barbecue ribs, and then I want a really nicely made pavlova.
You should go back to Joe Allen.
Yeah, it's that 10-year-old in Joe Allen's.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much is, and I'm not embarrassed about that.
He makes the best pavlova ever. Jeremy Lee makes a good one, doesn't he? Or meringues.
Jeremy Lee's meringues.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's Jeremy's meringue method in my book.
Oh, really?
Because it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's an absolute game changer. Once you learn that the key to a good meringue is weigh your egg whites.
That's exactly what he said.
It is. It's absolutely it. Once you weigh your egg whites, double the weight of sugar. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, it'd have to be Jeremy.
Well, Jay Rayner, you've been absolutely incredible. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Jay, those are your go-tos. Good luck with everything. You're a genius, and have a wonderful time at the Financial Times.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully we'll see you, in April. We
in
can't
April.
get in the guest list.
No,